Welcome to Broken Entertainment. So, I was going to talk about some stuff Games Workshop's doing that's not great, and some of that includes pricing. And then I'm like, with all the stuff in the news right now, do I really want to go kind of a negative route? So, I'm going to push that off. I'll probably get to it in a week or two, but I just kind of want to take a break from that kind of thing. And I'm going to instead do the next installment in my series on books that have dramatically influenced their genre or had other dramatic influences that have been published. And we did uh, previously Harry Potter. And today we're going to talk about a kids series, the Railway series. Many of you might be familiar with this series. It originally came out as the series of books Railway series, and we'll get into that history in a minute. And then it aired on television in the UK and in the United States, and then from there it spread as eventually titled Thomas and Friends. So many people are familiar with it in some aspect, whether they have direct influence from it or if they've just seen it on, that's that show my kid watches or whatever. But a lot of people are very familiar with it. And after that, we're going to start on Lord of the Rings. And I say start on because Lord of the Rings will probably take up either one very long video or two videos because it's hard to it's hard to overstate the impact Lord of the Rings has had on the fantasy genre. I mean, absolutely phenomenal impact. And I'm debating another one that we'll potentially come up with. Also, I have a review to do for a book that somebody self-published was requested. We'll go into that in another video as well. Still kind of putting my thoughts together on that one. So it'll be a little bit, but I finally got around to it. I was supposed to do it, months ago, and then scheduling goes wild, and here we are. But I finally got to read it, sat down, read the whole thing, and ready to put that together soon as well. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of where things are going channel-wise. We are going to cover this Games Workshop thing to talk about, just not today. Let's take a break from negative kind of stories and focus on something else because there's plenty of negative stuff. And I don't really want to go into that, but I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. So, the Railway series came about as a result of Wilbur Awdry's son Christopher having the measles in 1942. He wanted to comfort his son. He told him stories. He told him rhymes, and this kind of eventually spirals into this book series. And this ran for a long time, written first by Wilbert and then by his son Christopher, and then actually concluded. It didn't just end. They didn't stop writing it. He actually concluded the thing, which I think is pretty neat. And you can, in fact, buy the complete set online if you want all the books. And they still make books, but they're not the Railway series. They're Thomas and Friends, but they're not the direct Railway series. So Margaret Awdry also liked the stories and told her husband to get them published. She felt they were better than most children's books in circulation. Awdry was reluctant, but Margaret persisted and mentioned the stories in a letter to Wilbert's mother, Lucy, who replied that she knew the author Michael Barsley, and asked the stories be sent to her so she could forward them to him. At Margaret's insistence, Wilbert did so. Barsley's attempts to find a publisher were unsuccessful, so he showed the stories to his agent, Edith Ray Gregerson, who liked them and agreed to pursue the matter further. Her attempts to find a publisher were initially no more successful, as most were suffering paper shortages due to the Second World War, but in September of 1943, Edmund Ward agreed to publish them, though refused to commit to a publication date, to Wilbur's annoyance. In October, Ward wrote to say his stories would be published as one book, entitled The Three Railway Engines. But he required rough sketches for his illustrator to base his pictures on, and a fourth story to finish off the book. While Audrey was annoyed at the request, since Ward had already rejected his drawings, he agreed and wrote Edward, Gordon, and Henry. While it was hoped this would speed up publication, the book was not published until the 12th of May, 1945. We're talking a long-running series here. You can probably, if you have a kid, certainly. But if not, do a couple of searches online. It won't take you very long. You can come up with a lot of kids' shows and books similar to Thomas and the Railway series, because a lot of people have emulated this. And, just off the top of my head, because my son is obsessed with trains, and Thomas in particular, but also other trains from time to time sneak in. TTPO, which I believe is Korean. Might be Japanese. I'm not 100% on that. I haven't really looked into it. Chuggington. There's one, I forget the name, but there's one with engines that transform into robots. They get a little farther out there as you move away from the core of the Thomas idea, right? If you have kids and you're looking for one, Chuggington's pretty good and pretty similar in terms of spirit as the original Thomas, and not Thomas All Engines Go. That doesn't count. We don't talk about that. The book was an immediate commercial success, quickly selling out its initial print run of 22,500 copies and going through 2 more by the end of the year. Holy cow. Audrey, while happy to see his book in print, was disappointed in the illustrations by William Middleton. After the publication of the book, Christopher wanted a model of Gordon, but this could not be done. Instead, Audrey made a model of a tank engine from odds and ends, painted it blue, and gave it to Christopher as a Christmas present. Christopher christened the model Thomas. Christopher would then request stories about Thomas, and these stories would be published as Audrey's second and most famous book, Thomas the Tank Engine. After Thomas the Tank Engine, Audrey was finished with writing any more books. However, due to popular demand, Audrey pressed onward. By the time Audrey stopped writing in 1972, the first series for Thomas the Tank Engine, the Railway series, goes from 45. It initially gets picked up in 43, gets published in 1945, and Heath, the original writer, stops writing it in 1972. That right there is almost 30 years. And that's incredible. This is an incredible run for a children's series if you stop there and take into account the influence it has had on all sorts of kids' cartoons that have come out that are about trains. There's video games about talking trains. There's all kinds of stuff out there. There's a bunch of YouTube channels dedicated to playing with wooden Thomas trains and stuff. It's incredible how much stuff is out there. And Trackmaster. And generations of kids have grown up on this. So while I would argue the Railway series did not have a particularly huge impact on children's books as a genre, it didn't shape them, have the sort of profound impact of a Lord of the Rings, it's more in the mold of a Harry Potter. You get all these kids that have come up on it, you get all these cartoons that have come out, movies, different shows that have emulated or imitated it over time, different books that have done the same thing. That's a pretty big impact, and the toys are everywhere. And Mattel has it now, so of course toys are everywhere. But even before Mattel had it, the toys were everywhere. You might not notice it. It might be more noticed by parents or fans. Because I didn't really notice it. I had grown up on it a little bit and kind of, moved on and didn't really think about it too much until I had my son, and now he's watching it, and all of a sudden I'm just noticing it, right? It's everywhere. Christopher subsequently added 16 more books to the series, including the latter 2 posthumous releases. The last book, Thomas and His Friends, was published in 2011. to commemorate Wilbert's century, particularly the last story, Centenary. Centenary. I am messing that word up big time. My apologies. Now, the Railway series was published by Edmund Ward, from the three railway engines in 1945 to the mainline engines in 1966. Edmund Ward merged with Nicholas Kane to become Kane and Ward in 1952. Small railway engines in 1967 that began using the new imprint. Kane and Ward was acquired by William Heinemann in 1984, but the imprint was used up to Toby Trucks and Trouble in 1988. Heinemann was acquired by Reed Children's Books in 1987, but the imprint was used from Thomas and the Twins in 1989 to New Little Engine in 1996. And on April 1998, Reed International sold their children's book division to Egmont UK, and the copyright of the Railway series. So the copyright of the Railway series in 1998 money, £13.5 million. So you can see, and the incredible thing is, these books and this series that has been spawned by it isn't just popular in England, like Doctor Who was for a long time. It's a huge deal here too, in the United States, and it's a huge deal in other countries all over the world. There's I want to say it's in Germany. There's a full-size Thomas train you can ride. It's everywhere. And part of that's its longevity, but part of it's just people love it. And a kid's book series copyright selling for £13.5 million in 1998 money, that's a pretty big deal. Maybe it doesn't totally rewrite the foundations of children's literature as a genre, but it's a big deal. And I would argue its biggest impact has been on television. Then we go over to the television side. Thomas and Friends, previously known as Thomas Tank Engine and Friends, is the name of the television series based on the Railway series by the Reverend W. Awdry. It was adapted for television by Britt Allcroft, using the original stories from the Railway series before using original stories written by independent writers. So if you watch the first two seasons, I think it's the first two, you basically see the books. Just awesome. You don't get that a lot without it being in other things, without it being messed with and modernized and whatever you have. These were pretty much word for word the books. The series has been broadcast in 185 territories, spawned 24 seasons, a theatrical film, and 14 direct-to-DVD movies. Okay, so you have a kid's book series starting in 1945 and ending in 2011, and it spawns a TV show that starts in the 80s, goes to 185 territories, has 24 seasons, a theatrical film, and 14 straight to DVD. I mean, think about that. Those numbers. This started out as a guy just trying to comfort his kid, who is probably terrified if you consider the time period and the disease. In April 2008, it was announced that filming in the series would transfer to Nitrogen Studios in Canada. In 2012, it's moved to Art Productions. And then, sadly, it has since been shut down and replaced with the rebooted, absolutely terrible series, All Engines Go. But that's a pretty darn good run. And it's in toys, it's on children's clothes, it's in TV, it's on the internet, it's on DVDs, it's on Blu-rays, it's in books, it's on toys, it's continuing on books. You have not spin-off series, but series that are emulating, series that have taken this idea of talking trains and gone with it. This is the kind of impact stuff can have. Okay, what starts out as a simple book written by a man who's just like, hey, I'm just telling my kids stories. Simple kids book comes out, and here we are decades later. And when I talk about this series of videos that I'm doing, it's not just the stuff that has reshaped its genre. It's about impact. Be it cultural, be it on the genre itself. The Railway series runs for a long time in novel, or not in novel form, in book form. And then another long time on TV and in movies and in toys. Think about where this started and where it is now. You can't walk into a Walmart without seeing a Thomas toy. And you have generations of people who have grown up watching it, or grown up reading it, or both. And you can't go anywhere without seeing it, or hearing potentially somebody talk about it. That's a significant impact. And it's why these kids books, you see so many kids books come out. They pump out kids books like crazy. And a lot of them are low tier. A lot of them aren't any good. Or a lot of them anymore are agenda driven stuff that's more about indoctrinating people than it is actually teaching your kids things. And then you have stuff like the Railway series, which just, it comes out and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on, and it inspires kids and it inspires adults. I mean, adults like this stuff too. Not only do the adults that have grown up on it, but the adults that have discovered it through their children or rediscovered it through their children. That cultural impact is hard to overstate. That cultural impact is what we're talking about in these videos, as much as genre impact. And, you know, in a way, it has impacted its genre pretty big, because you still see people come out with kids' books about talking trains that aren't necessarily Thomas. But where do you think that's coming from? Now, you can go back in time to, actually, I wonder when that was published. Hang on. Pull up the original, 1930. So, The Little Engine That Could, we could make an argument for its impact too, but it's not really, as we've seen, not really directly tied to Thomas in the Railway series. But you've got talking trains dating back, however far, at least 1930. But the Little Engine That Could didn't put that on the map. The Railway series put that on the map. Thomas the Tank Engine put that on the map. When you see a talking train cartoon or a book, you don't think, oh, that's like Chuggington. You think, oh, that's like Thomas. It's incredible. And it's why I say, if you have an idea, if you have a creative idea, get it together and put it out there. Because look where it can go. Harry Potter, another good example. Lord of the Rings. These were just people with ideas, and they come out with these books, and they put them out there, and they publish them, and off it goes. And not every book, most books don't do that. That's why we're doing this series, because it is different and unique that a book does that. But you do not know what you have until it's out there. Without his wife, the Railway series doesn't happen. Thomas doesn't happen. Because she pushed him to do it. Without him, of course, the stories never come about in the first place. So let me know what you think, if you're a fan of the Railway series or you're a fan of Thomas, or both. When I say Thomas, I'm referring to the show and the movies. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.